We're talking about the A-Team and Karate Kid today. I have no idea why this time warp's happening now, this same week, but it is. We're going to start out with the A-Team first with Matt. Matt, take it away.
So the A-Team, for those people that were raised in a cave and have no idea about their 80s history, is the story of, well, it's a remake of the 80s TV show about 4 Army Rangers who are framed for a crime that they didn't commit and live a life on the lam. And if you have a problem and no one else can solve it, and if you can find them, maybe you could hire the A-Team. Maybe we could watch the trailer.
This court is rendering guilty verdicts for this Alpha Unit, or A-Team, and incarceration in maximum security facilities for 10 years.
We are innocent. Where's the plan, boss?
You actually sound worried.
Those men were your responsibility. Find them.
Hell no. I ain't stepping foot in any type of aircraft.
Man up! Get in the plane. We gotta finish the escape. Man up and get in there.
Putting the team back together.
So how do you plan on stopping him?
Don't sweat them.
This just got exciting.
I'm BA. You're gonna be unconscious.
Just a heck of a beautiful place. Just a timeshare. I'd love to get in on it.
Good morning.
He tried to escape by jump-starting an ambulance with a defibrillator.
Clear. My kind of guy. I told you the mission wasn't over.
What are we talking about? Clean records?
We were set up.
It's payback time.
Oh, hell yeah, Hannibal.
Okay, so you get the idea. Lots of stuff gets blowed up real good, and Bradley Cooper has his shirt off early and often. So, Matt, thoughts on the A-Team?
I really enjoyed this movie. I will say that it ain't art by any stretch of the imagination. This is not a particularly deep film. But I'm a big fan of movies that know that they're going over the top and take a ridiculous idea and just completely go for it. And that's what this movie does in spades. The set pieces are insane, completely insane, and that's one of the things I dug about it. And there are moments, I felt like it actually brought, if not depth, at least a little bit of backstory that we didn't really necessarily get in the show. Not that I've watched every episode of the show.
Were you a fan of the show at all?
I did watch the show when I was a kid. I enjoyed it. I watch it now, and I think the show's kind of rough. But, the show for what it is okay. But the movie, more than anything else, is kind of an origin story for the team. We get to see them first get together, and then we get to see the crime that they're framed for, and them trying to clear their names. And I actually think that works for me. And
right. It takes place now.
It takes place now, so they're no longer Vietnam vets. They are now, they're
pulling out of the Iraq War.
Right, Iraq War.
But it's sort of a prequel.
But sort of a prequel.
As well. Okay.
Yes.
So you dug it. Your thoughts? What do you like?
I had a lot of serious problems with this.
Okay.
I was a fan of the TV show, and I know it's not going to be exactly the same, but I found a lot of the action to be strangely unsatisfying. And just kind of like loud and clattery and really cutty. And I was thinking of like a movie like Mission Impossible, where those sort of operations they do are very kind of really interesting and tense, and you kind of see how everyone does it. This was just, it was a lot of noise. And then when the characters I felt weren't as consistent with the show as they should have been. Like in the show, Hannibal is kind of mischievous and he's a master of disguise. They didn't do any of that. I thought that when I heard that Rampage Jackson was cast, I was really excited. I was like, that's perfect casting because he's like a certified ass kicker. That's all this guy does. But in the movie, you don't see B.A. Baracus kick ass that much. And they make this joke where he renounces violence, which is only really funny if you've seen him be violent and a badass.
He is in the beginning, though, right?
He kind of is. I will say that I do see your point on there. I mean, the movie's not perfect, right? The movie does have its flaws. And one of the things that was consistent through the show and the excitement of having Rampage play B.A. is that B.A. is a character that everybody's afraid of, even his own team. And although they kind of pay lip service to that in the movie, we don't really get to, I mean, yes, we get an early fight scene where he does kick copious amounts of ass. He goes into this car shop and beats the hell out of everybody. But we don't like that's about it.
But
that's
he's
about all
still
we
kind
see.
of smiley and kind of jokey in that a little bit. He's not, because in the show, Mr. T just glowers and shouts. And what was great in the show, there'd always be a scene where there's a big fist fight and like the A team is losing and they're like BA, BA,
right?
And he just comes in and just destroys everyone, and it's really satisfying. That never happens in this movie.
Well, the whole thing is kind of cheeky, which I kind of dug about it. Like, there's a lot I surprisingly liked about this movie. I walked into it going, the world does not need an A-Team movie. And I had so much fun, because if you just go with it and go with how silly it is, and a lot of it's actually edited really beautifully. Like the whole heist sequence, I don't want to give away what it is, but as they're planning it, like they're cutting between the planning of it and the actual execution of it.
I actually really
That's so much
dug
fun.
that. I thought that was really, really well done. The way he's explaining what's going to happen, and we're seeing it happen.
And then it's happening, right.
And I thought that was a lot of fun. And the other thing that I liked about this movie, because this is something that never happened in the show, they actually turned the relationship between Hannibal and Face into kind of a mentoring relationship, which that really worked for me. It added, if not a depth, it added a complication, and you know what, it did add a depth to the team for me, because it made me feel like, okay, so there's something that Hannibal sees in Face he's going to pass the torch eventually. He's kind of sharing his wisdom.
Yeah,
and that really worked for me.
Yeah, that Face is clearly of the team is the second smartest guy.
Right.
And saying like, oh, we can kind of work together. We can, Face can plan as well and things like that. I was a little disturbed by the relationship with Murdoch and BA, because once again, I hate to go back to the TV show, but in that one, like, Mr. T doesn't like Murdoch, not just because he's a pilot, because he's a crazy fool.
Right.
And like Mr. T is serious all the time, takes every, it's just like really
and
angry.
you feel like in the show, like every scene that the two of them are together, that BA is 2 seconds away from just popping Murdoch, just going off on him.
Yeah, and he's not, like, in this one, he's like, BA isn't the enforcer. He's just kind of another guy, like, and he drives and stuff. He doesn't really do anything special, and I feel like it's a real kind of waste. They cast Rampage right, but they didn't use him right, in my opinion.
I kind of like the whole cast, though, because as we were saying about Splice last week, when you have actors who can actually act, it kind of makes a difference. Like, it's a super silly movie. A lot of it's very cartoony, but like having Liam Neeson as their leader, I don't know, kind of gives it a heft and kind of an intelligence I wouldn't have expected. I love Sharlto Copley in this. I mean, I love District 9. So I think he adds like humor and danger to it.
I think Copley steals the movie.
Do you?
I think he's the funniest laughs come from the Murdoch scenes, and he's just so out there. And
all the voices and the accents.
All of the voices and the accents, and I think they let him do so much as Murdoch, and they let I don't know if it's the script or just letting him kind of just ramble on. There's a lot of things going on with Murdoch, and I think that's probably one of the strongest points of the movie. He's so funny and so crazy, and so when they translate that into action scenes, an early helicopter chase, that insanity translates into how he fights, and it works.
And it made it more tense to me. I was like, oh my God, what the hell is going to happen here? Because he's off balance. Right. Okay, so ratings. What do you give it?
I had, like I said, a lot of problems with it. I think that if you're a fan of the TV show, you're going to have problems with it. I think I put it on the rank of like, it's Transformers-ish.
No, it's not that bad. Transformers is horrible.
It's not that bad, but like, if you want a loud action movie, you'll get it in this. You probably won't remember a whole lot about it, a few minutes after you come out. I gave it a 4.
Wow.
Ooh.
You're tough.
I was heavy on this one.
All right, you?
No, see, I'm going to remember, the sequence that is shown in the clips, the sequence of riding the tank.
They're flying the tank, yes.
Like flying the tank. That's something I'm going to remember just for the sheer audacity for a long time. Now, it loses a couple of points for me because of the shaky cam, and we all know I loathe the shaky cam. But that being said, I really like this movie, and I recommend it. I'm giving it a 7.5.
Okay. I'm pretty close to you. I'm giving it a 7. I dug it. I thought it was fun. Some of the action sequences, like the flying tank scene, looked a little cartoonish to me, but I still had so much fun. And Joe Carnahan directed this, who previously did Narc, which was excellent, which no one saw.
Right.
And
but then the loathsome.
And then he did Smoking Aces.
Smoking
So
Aces.
this is sort of like a combination of the two. Like, you have a little bit of intelligence and a lot of crazy action. So I'm giving it a 7. I'm pretty high on this. So our average for A-Team is a 6.2, which is a recommendation. I mean, in the Rotten Tomatoes world, 60% is a recommendation. So we're right about there. We're pretty close.
And I should point out that a lot of the critics are really down on this movie. A lot of them can't get past. It's just kind of they're calling it soulless. I don't know that I really agree. I mean, it's not deep, but right now on the Tomato Meter, it's at about 54% last I checked.
And we forgot to mention Jessica Biel,
yes,
who's also in it, who
God,
I thought
who's
was
never looked better.
but I thought was not believable at all.
I don't know. She's played
but
kind of badass roles in the past. I don't know. I was okay with that. I mean, and the whole point is that she's supposed to like look good and be sassy and have her sexy banter with Bradley Cooper.
The CIA stuff was hilarious.
Patrick Wilson. We should mention Patrick Wilson because he was totally
Patrick
great
Wilson,
in it, so.
and then the Blackwater. Black River,
Black Forest, as
Black
they're
Forest,
called, which made me just think of Ham and Cake, which was kind of weird.
I thought that the scene where the guy's in the back of the car and about to get offed,
oh yes,
and the discussion about the incompetence of the CIA guys was one of the best scenes in the whole movie.
That's Brian Bloom who co-wrote the script. Okay,
right.
very good. Okay, so 6.2 for A-Team for us. Next, we're doing Karate Kid.